Hello, I'm Matt Holub, Associate Director for Occupational Safety and Health, the University of Alabama Safe State Program. Today, we're pleased to present to you a special video on work zone safety. We do this in recognition of National Work Zone Awareness Week, an annual event that focuses on awareness, education, and training on hazards of roadway work zones. What you see here is the national campaign poster for 2021. Drive safe, work safe, save lives. And that's really what it's all about. Safe State is also a proud member of the Alabama Struck By Alliance. I myself have had the pleasure of serving as chair for this great alliance. As you can see, there are a number of outstanding organizations that are taking part in this group, in this effort, and in these work zone safety events. The poster that you see to the right is produced by Alabama AGC and features Millie, the work zone safety dog. The goal of the Alabama Struck By Alliance is to call attention to the very serious issue of work zone injuries and fatalities. We all play a part in preventing these types of hazards, whether by driver crashes or by heavy equipment in these work zones. This year's billboard campaign features a gentleman who was one of the very fortunate few who survived a work zone crash. We also want to give special thanks to AGC for the billboard design, ALDOT for their role in making this campaign happen, and Lamar Signs for their placement of these billboards along our roadways during Work Zone Awareness Week. We encourage everyone with affected workers or employees who drive through these work zones to take some time out for a safety stand down during the Work Zone Awareness Week. The AGC Construction Center website contains free materials for anyone who would like to promote or train during the stand down week. If you can't arrange it during that week, really any time would be a good time to hear these important messages. Which brings me to today's presenter, Melissa Bond Wilkins. Melissa is the CEO of Southern Safety Training and Consulting. She is a 39-year safety professional with over 26 years in the U.S. Army. She's been doing work zone training for nearly 20 years. And I'm happy to say she is an instructor for the UA Safe State OSHA Training Institute Ed Center. So with that, I'm going to turn over our program to Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. We appreciate your contributions today.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that introduction. And I really appreciate being asked to be here today to talk to you about work zone safety. We're at a very special time of the year right now. We're looking at Work Zone Safety Awareness Week. The thing about work zone safety is we don't want to just celebrate it 1 week out of the year. Work zone safety is something we need to think about all the time. Every time we go get behind that wheel and every time we get out on the roadway, get out on the interstate or just a city street, we need to keep in mind that those folks that are out there in that work zone are doing us a great service. They're redoing our highways, they're redoing our roadways, and they're redoing our bridges so that we can get from point A to point B and do the things that we need to do. Now, my name is Melissa Bonds Wilkins. I am a safety professional. I've been a safety professional, like Matt told you, for about 39 years now. But work zone safety is an exceptionally important part of my life. I love construction. I've worked in construction for many years. But work zone safety is particularly near and dear to my heart because of the folks who do the work and because of results of their work. As you're looking at the screen there and you see my name, behind that you'll notice it says CHGW. I gave myself those initials. I'm a certified homegrown woman. What you see is what you get. And I'm going to be that way today. I'm going to talk to you about the way I see things and the way that I believe things truly are. And I'd like to begin by explaining to you that there's 3 particular areas in work zones that we need to think about. First is the driving public. The driving public has a huge impact on the safety of people in the work zones. We get behind the wheel, we get busy, we get doing things, and we forget about the fact that as we ride by work zones or we ride through work zones, our actions can negatively impact the safety of others that are working there. I also want to talk to you to the folks who set up work zones. Setting up a work zone and doing so the correct way is literally will dictate the outcome of how safe the people in that work zone will be. And then lastly, I want to talk to you about the actual workers in the work zone. Actions they take, things that they do can impact their own safety as they're going through their day-to-day activities and rebuilding our roads and rebuilding our bridges. Folks that are out there behind the wheel, when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, what you need to do is concentrate on your driving. I know with today's time, with the cell phones and with all the wonderful GPS systems and all the technology and things that we have today, we just think to ourselves, oh, yay, on the way to this location, I can call this person or I can text that person. Folks, you can't do a whole lot of stuff at one time. When you're behind the wheel of a vehicle, you need to be driving and only concerned about driving. Not only do we impact the people who are in the work zones, but we have pedestrians, we have bicyclists, we have folks who are sharing the sidewalks and the roadways and crossing at intersections. And so we need to be particularly careful about what we're doing. Now, while we know cell phones is a huge problem, there are a lot of other distractions as well. We know, and unfortunately, I personally have seen folks who put a book on a steering wheel and ride down the highway and read a book while they're driving. People will put maps on the steering wheel and actually read a map. Folks will eat while they're driving. They'll have a big hamburger in one hand and they'll have a 16 or 20 ounce drink in the other, and they'll steer with their knee going down the roadway. I'm a homegrown woman. I like to eat too. But folks, when you're driving down the roadway, you need to be driving down the roadway and worry about your food at another time. In addition to that, there are other distractions as well. This day and time, there's a lot of people working elongated shifts. They're working 10, 12-hour days. We need to remember that fatigue driving is just as dangerous as driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. When we get really, really tired, when we get really, really exhausted, our mind is not going to be on what it needs to be on us driving the vehicle. I have witnessed women putting on makeup in their rearview mirrors. Personally, I've seen a gentleman that lives not far from where I live. Every morning on his way to work, he starts shaving, and he shaves looking in the rearview mirror as he's driving down the road. Y'all, 5 more minutes, getting up early, 5 minutes earlier than what you normally do, might keep you out of an accident. We also have other passengers in the cars with us sometimes, especially our children. We have our children in the back seat because the back seat is the safest part of the car for the children to ride in. But then when the children get a little rowdy or when the children start fighting each other or fussing with each other, what do? We literally turn around and look at the children to scold them as we're still barreling down the roadway. We have to think about the fact that that car is clipping down the roadway and we cannot stop on a dime. And there are many, many other distractions as well. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is the faster you're going in your vehicle, the longer it takes you to come to a complete stop. If there's water on the roadway, if there's sand, gravel, especially if there's a little coating of ice, it's going to take you longer to come to a stop. If you're driving a truck and you've got a load on the truck versus being unloaded, a loaded truck is heavier. It's going to take you longer to stop. You need to understand that the faster you go, the longer it takes you to stop. You could literally run over a flagger or you could run over a person crossing the street because you could not come to a complete stop because your speed was too fast. One of the things that we have to be concerned about is how we set up our work zones. We sometimes, especially utility companies, will get emergency calls. They come on the weekend, they come in the middle of the night. Sometimes they come in horrific weather. Folks have to get out there and they have to get out there in a hurry. They have to repair gas lines. They have to take care of power lines. But what we have to remember is how we set up that work zone can dictate whether we're going to be safe or not. So we need to take those few extra minutes to put up the advanced warning signs to let people know that we're there. We need to be sure that we put up all the devices that we need to put up. We need to put up the cones. We need to put up the barricades. But remember, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD, is our guide for work zone safety. And in there's this wonderful, simple chart that we can use that makes a determination of how many cones do we put out, where do we put the cones, how many barrels, how much space in between the barrels. It's not very difficult, but it does take just a little bit of time. So we need to look at the type of roadway that we're going to be working on. We need to look at the speed of the traffic that goes down that roadway. And we need to be certain that we put up not only all the barrels and the cones and the barricades, but we need to be certain that we put up those advanced warning signs, because those advanced warning signs tell the folks that they're approaching your work zone and that they need to slow down. They need to take that extra time to watch for additional guidance on the signs that will come as you pass the first one. When we don't set things up properly, folks don't have enough time to react. The picture that you see in front of you, I wish I could tell you that it's a work zone. It's not a work zone. It's some barrels that were thrown up and some signs that were thrown up in haste. And unfortunately, the barrels that close that right lane are so close to where the men are working, there's absolutely no way somebody could stop appropriately and in time to keep from running into somebody that's right there doing that work. We have to be certain that when we put our signs up and we provide guidance, that we put up the correct signs, that we put them far enough out from the work zone that people do have the proper time to react. And by the way, we need to put up signs that are actually official signs. Remember, all of your devices actually fall under the guidance of federal DOT. In the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices in Part 6, there's a section in there that talks about official signs and official devices that are used in work zones. And if you look at that picture there, I can promise you that nowhere in the MUTCD does it say that you can hand letter your signs. This type of a sign is not only not going to garner any attention, it's going to absolutely get no respect whatsoever. So we need to use the official signs that provide clear and concise guidance to the public. When we don't set things up properly, when we have so many devices out there that it's almost like a disarray or a sloppy collection of barrels or cones, people get confused. They don't know how to react, and that actually contributes to accidents. Now, our workers, unfortunately, sometimes there's things that they can do that will cause them to be actually put in harm's way. They don't do it purposely. Oftentimes they'll be talking to somebody, they'll have their mind on something else, and they won't realize that they're actually putting themselves in a precarious position. Excuse me. If you look at the picture that's on the screen, there's two truck drivers there, and they're actually waiting on their turn. Instead of staying in the cab, which is their safe zone, both of them have gotten out. And if you notice, they're standing in the shadow of the one truck. Because they're wearing dark clothing and they're standing in the shadows, they're not wearing a high visibility vest that has the retroreflective trim. Because of that, they don't show up very well. And if you notice, that one gentleman is very close to the open lane of traffic. So there are things that our workers do that put themselves in precarious ways as well. I know when you have to go out and you have to work on traffic signals. I know when there's a power line and you have to go tearing out, or there's a gas leak and you have to go out in a hurry. It's a bad situation. But when you do things like you see on the screen here, there's just absolutely no way you're going to be safe. And what you have to remember is you're not only not going to be safe, but you also endanger the lives of public drivers. While they can cause problems at your work zone, if you don't set your work zone up properly, you can also cause problems for the public drivers and put them in precarious circumstances as well. These cones that are on the screen are not magic cones. Those cones that are around those three men are not going to prevent those men from getting hurt. There's no advance warning signs. There's nothing that is correct about this. And so we need to be careful about how we handle things. Taking our requirements of the job seriously, knowing what tasks we have to do, and knowing how we have to perform those tasks, we need to take this seriously. As you can see, this flagger sitting on the back of the truck is not taking his task seriously. Your flagger for your work zone is your first line of defense. Your flagger is going to be the first person that the public encounters. They're going to control traffic. They're going to make sure that there are no out of control vehicles headed toward the work zone. If something bad happens, they'll be the ones that will alert the other people in the work zone to watch out. There's a problem coming. Sitting on the back of a pickup truck and not conducting yourself as a trained flagger that's responsible for the safety of not only your crew, but the public, this just does not send a good message whatsoever. And unfortunately, it's also a dangerous situation for that gentleman. If somebody driving that pickup truck there got distracted, he could very easily be hit and probably killed under those circumstances. Now, one of the things that we know is a problem is visibility. If you look at the requirements, the ANSI standards that cover clothing for work zone folks and folks on construction sites, and especially for flaggers, is the ANSI standard that says a worker must be visible under any circumstances at 1,000 feet. If you look at the picture that's on the screen there actually is a flagger. He does have a vest on, but he has the wrong vest. He has a Class 1 vest. Now, if you notice that Class 1 vest is open on the sides. That's not the kind we wear in work zones. In work zones, we have to wear a 2 or we have to wear a 3. And we'll talk about those. But there's something else that this flagger is doing that is extremely disturbing. If you look at this picture, that flagger has his back to the oncoming traffic. You never turn your back to the oncoming hazard. In this case, this is broad daylight. We have a person who's on the edge of an open roadway. There's a curve in the roadway and also a hill. But on the side of this roadway, if you notice, there's a lot of overgrowth. It's dark. The person is actually in the shade. He's not wearing a high visibility vest. He blends in perfectly with that background. Somebody going on a normal clip down the roadway would not even notice that person. But if you put that person in a high visibility vest, even in daytime, look at the difference it makes. You'll be able to see him from a very safe distance. You'll know to slow down. You'll know to watch for things that are coming up as you go down the roadway. So make certain that you're wearing these high visibility vests. Make certain that you follow the rules of work zone safety. Don't put yourself in situations that could put your life at risk. As we go through our day-to-day activities and as we run our errands and as we go to and from work, as you approach those work zones, remember these folks are out there. They're doing very hard physical jobs, but they're doing us a tremendous service. They're redoing our infrastructure. They're making it possible, like I said, for us to do fun things on the weekend, for us to get back and forth to our own jobs. And they're helping to keep this country in good shape. And those of you that actually do set up our work zones, be sure that you're especially conscientious of how you're doing it and the way you set the signs up, the way you set the devices up. Make sure you do it correctly, because those of you that set these zones up, you personally impact the safety of the public and the safety of your crews. All right, for those of y'all that do work in the work zones, be responsible. Think about your safety. Think about your coworkers' safety. Always wear that high-vis vest. Even at lunch, when you take your break at lunch and you go sit down in the shade and you get up and you start back toward the work, you should always have that vest on. You need to always be visible. Don't leave the work zone. Don't go into areas that are not protected. And be conscientious. Just watch your surroundings. If you notice something about the work zone that doesn't look right, maybe a vehicle's gone by and they've bumped some of the barricades, or they've bumped some of the signs, or maybe some of the signs have blown down. Alert folks and let them know so they can fix things. If we can get the driving public and the folks who work in the work zones, if we can get them together, if we can get them to stand up and understand they have responsibilities, we'll get our roads fixed. We'll get our bridges fixed. Y'all, it's imperative that we do that. But what folks need to understand is we cannot rebuild the roads and we cannot rebuild the bridges at the cost of lives. We can do it, and we can do it in a way that everybody gets to go home to their families. And that's a really good thing. I appreciate you letting me talk to you today. Take care of yourselves. Hang in there. See you later.
Thank you, Melissa. It was a great presentation. Before we leave, I'd like to mention some of the programs and services that we've got available through the University of Alabama Safe State program. Starting off with our free on-site OSHA consultation program for small businesses. Every year, we serve 200 to 300 companies around the state of Alabama, helping them with their safety and health challenges. We work with companies just like yours. And if you're interested in getting that type of professional assistance, please let us know. We also have an OTI Ed Center where we offer occupational safety and health classes in Tuscaloosa, Mobile, Madison. We do these in person and virtually, and we also perform these classes custom at your workplace. On August 30 through September 1 of this year, the Alabama Governor's Safety and Health Conference returns to Orange Beach, Alabama. This is a premier safety and health event in the state of Alabama, and we hope that you'll all be able to join us. I also want to mention that we have certificate programs available in occupational safety and health, and we have consulting and training in environmental areas as well. To get in touch with us about any of these programs and these services, you can contact us online, alabamasafestate.ua.edu, or hit us up toll free at 855-517-3347. Once again, I want to thank you all for joining our program today. Thank you, Melissa, for a terrific presentation. This concludes our 2021 National Work Zone Awareness Week presentation. Remember, drive safe, work safe, and save lives. Thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.